What's up, ladies and gentlemen? I just wanted to start off this video by thanking you guys so much, those of you who have actually been watching and commenting and liking my videos, because I've been having outrageous growth on my YouTube channel, so I'm just blown away with that. Thank you so much, guys, and I'd appreciate it if you keep it up. With that being said, this is basically the introduction to my noob-friendly world conquest guidelines or tutorial. From a lot of the comments that I've been receiving, I have realized in regards to my Byzantium strategy and also even the world conquest, some of what I've been doing is obviously a little bit advanced for a lot of the people within inside of the community who are actually commenting, and a lot of people have commented sort of self-deprecating things about how, you know, they can't even conquer the world on normal difficulty or anything like that. And so what I wanted to do is basically, obviously I don't want to shoot an entire series and it will take a really long time to do something like that, but I wanted to basically demonstrate to you how it is very easy, in fact, if you're willing to exploit in particular, but how easy it is to actually get that world conquest achievement. So here we have a game as Austria playing the HRE route, which in my opinion is very fun, entertaining, and still somewhat challenging, but at the same time, with the way that I'm actually playing and that I'm going to advise you guys to play if you're less experienced, is going to, as well as being entertaining and satisfying, you're going to absolutely dominate the game and get that world conquest achievement. So this is a little bit of a sort of intro where I'm just going to show you the state of my game right here at 1530. I'm going to continue the game on until we reach that stage where you actually vassalize the entire empire, and show you at what an early date that I was able to acquire that. And then I'm going to come back and basically explain to you the tactic and the approach that you want to take to actually acquire this yourself and to actually do this yourself. So as you can see here, I actually have this empire is outrageously huge. We have province Burgundy inside the empire, as well as all of the lowlands, as well as Hungary, Venice, Serbia, Montenegro, Ragusa, Nitria, and more. I'm going to be adding more. We've safeguarded all of Italy, obviously, and I'm working on, we're going to try and get Transylvania inside the empire as well. So this is absolutely massive. Now let me just talk about, oh, by the way, gaining 0.27 imperial authority a month in 1530 while the Reformation is in full force, because we've disallowed wars, internal wars, by 1530. Obviously Paradox over the last few sort of expansions and major patches has tried to nerf the empire dramatically, but I just wanted to show you guys how, in my opinion, how powerful it still is. And in my opinion, it is the undisputed most obnoxious way to conquer the world. Because let's say that you, for example, let's say that you can just win any battle ever that you ever fight. Let's say that you're Muscovy and you can just win any war that you fight. Well, there are still limitations that you're going to find, massive limitations, like you're going to find aggressive expansion to be a limitation. Although I suppose you could just beat the coalition with that logic. But regardless, you know what I mean, you'll die by people all attacking you. Your monarch power is a limitation, your overextension is a limitation. These are things where you have to fight a war, but if you overextend over 100, well, your country's going to collapse. So you have to take little chunks at a time. These are all limitations that are all inside of the game, and basically every single one of these limitations can be circumvented by playing as the empire and actually feeding your vassals and then integrating them via the last Reformation into your country, which is one of the only methods in the entire game where you can truly integrate land for free. So that is the essential way that the HRE is really obnoxiously overpowered. Yeah, so with that being said, that empire, stick around if you want to learn how to do this yourself. Thanks for watching. Okay, so it is the date 1553, and it appears to have been a total of less than 110 years played, and I think 23 years since I last passed the reform in which internal wars are disallowed within the empire. You can see the tremendous amount of imperial authority that I've been making per month, even though the Protestant Reformation has really taken its toll. And the main reason is because of the amount of individual nations that have been adding to the empire, but also in combination with this most recently passed reform, which gives you 25% more imperial authority. So we can see here I'm catching you guys up at the date where I can finally pass the second to last reformation, which is of course probably the most significant of them all, which essentially vassalizes any nation that will actually vote for the reformation, the reform. Now we can note here that there's 77 princes total, and being Austria, every single nation is actually voting for us. I did have some issues convincing the more powerful heretical nations like Lubeck and Bohemia to actually vote for me, but with Austria being at almost 10 Diplo Rep, as well as having Diplo Rep Advisor and taking reputation from the Pope, I actually allied those nations and improved my relations as far as I possibly could until I actually received their votes, and that's from Hungary, Bohemia and Lubeck were the main nations who were not voting for me. So we can see that every single nation will actually become our vassal, and the way that we're going to continue to play this game out from here is actually feed the entirety of Europe towards the empire. We can see here in this region in particular, there's a whole bunch of reconquesting to be had. We're probably try to feed Brandenburg in particular. Right now he's actually Catholic, and if we give him Catholic land, that would help him remain Catholic. But of course we would feed Brandenburg all of this land as much as possible because of his OP Prussian ideas. So the more powerful he gets, the better. As well as, of course, France, the Ottomans, and the PLC in Scandinavia. Those are the main regions that I would begin with, and then we would go ahead and continue to feed the entirety of Europe to our empire. Now, keep in mind, we have almost 300 years of the game remaining, and from this point, we would literally just declare war and start expanding endlessly. Of course, with the inevitable free integration when we pass this final reform. And the final reform, we do not even need to worry about heretics or anything like that because they're already our subject. There's no more defecting from the empire. You just simply need more than the majority of the votes, which we will be able to obtain easily. So the way that I would actually play this game out here is while I am at war and just using my subjects as sort of war slaves and feeding land to them, I'm actually going to transition into more of a colonial power myself. And we can see here, funnily enough, in my game, there hasn't been that much colonial activity at all. Although the game is still really quite early, we've done this in an astonishing speed. Strangely enough, we can see France and Great Britain are beginning to colonize, whereas Castile or Spain is actually doing really poorly. So strangely enough, there's not that much colonial activity, but regardless, the point is at this stage of the game, if we take exploration, that's going to go ahead and give us the colonial range even from Italy, most likely, to grab some land, which is therefore going to improve our colonial range even further when it is caught up. And what I will actually focus on now, if I was going for a world conquest, is really expanding into different regions, strategically giving me the range to actually attack the more vulnerable nations with worse military tech. So I would actually focus on the whole entire world, getting a large amount of naval force limit from exploration ideas, but as well as the colonies, which improve your naval force limit a lot, and really focusing on the colonial game, trying to secure colonies for myself as well as trading companies in order to boost our wealth dramatically. And I would focus on crushing Asia and Africa and so on and so forth, whilst we have our vassals fight wars in the homeland for us. Obviously, you can actually, we can see in this game Ming has fell apart. I haven't taken that much time to look at Asia. You can actually protectorate nations as Western power to knock them out one by one, but of course it is so early in the game I would just focus on expanding everywhere you can and improving our own might, whilst, like I said, we feed everything to our empire. So the next part of this playthrough, for this video, excuse me, I'm actually going to break down strategically and give advice on exactly how you should be playing this game in order to actually play so successfully passing these reformations. That's going to be the next part of this video, but let's go ahead and click this button. Oh, we're actually dragged into war. I didn't expect that. So as we can see here, the entirety of the empire is under our control. Looks like Provence, Venice, Genoa, Flanders. We do have some liberty to sign. And I'm going to focus on putting my diplomats into those provinces. But of course, the likelihood of them winning a war of independence against us is, of course, a joke. Because of just how powerful we are. So we can call Muscovy in here because this is now a defensive war that we inherited this subject. That's going to make destroying Denmark a complete joke, and I would feed land to him. But in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and declare a reconquest war on behalf of Hungary. And good luck, Ottomans, defeating the entire empire. If we compare our forces here, it looks like even with France, he's got 76,000 infantry versus our 460,000 infantry. Of course, with all of these different individual nations, that means we have hundreds of different generals and so on and so forth, which is going to make our life very easy, as the most superior generals will usually be utilized. So you can go ahead and see here that I'm going to basically dominate the world, which is exactly what we're looking for, and feed everything to my subjects. This is going to be a lot of fun. And in order to reach this stage yourself in a very early stage of the game, make sure to continue watching the video where I'm going to break down how to execute this strategy yourself. So first things first, when we actually create this save file, when you begin, we're going to set the starting date much nearer to the end of the game, around 1810 or beyond 1810. This does take a little while, but I'm going to demonstrate exactly why. This is basically a known error or bug or exploit in the game. You're going to see for yourself, if you're not aware of what is about to happen, the effect that this is going to have on the game when we actually return to Rise of the Ottomans. So we're going up to 1840 here, then I'm going to click on Rise of the Ottomans, the first 1444 here, and we can see now that Venice and Provence are inside the empire. This is obviously a cheat, an exploit, and it is not necessary. But like I said, the intention of this strategy is to actually help those of you who kind of want to have a fun, enjoyable experience, but really want to achieve that World Conqueror achievement, to get that World Conquest. Although this is a massive exploit and it's going to make your game way easier, at the same time, you're still going to have to work for that World Conquest achievement. So there you go. If that is beyond something that you want to do, that's fine. In my case, for my own personal games, I actually try to stay away from exploits because I kind of feel like they take away some of the fun. If you try to think of another game, for example, where you go immune, or you can spend as much money as you want, as many resources, like in Warcraft 3, for example, it kind of destroys the game entirely, right? In this case, the reason I'm actually showing this to you, those of you who might not know about it, is because I don't feel like that's the case. It makes your life much easier, but it is still enjoyable to play the game, and it's satisfying and rewarding. With that being said, again, it is not necessary, but the major thing that this is going to do, apart from the obvious, it's obviously extremely good, but the major thing that it's going to do is actually allow you to reign in Italy. When the Shadow Kingdom event triggers, you're going to have to require to essentially control these 5 provinces, which are now under the influence of the Papal State, and these 4 provinces, in order to actually reign in Italy and therefore keep Italy inside the empire. Now, the difference here, again, apart from all the obvious reasons, the fact that Venice is a part of the empire, which is huge, means that you just need these 5 provinces in order to reign in Italy. So with that being said, that is obviously an approach, something that you're going to work on, is trying to obtain this region and reign in Italy. But with that being said, the other things that you want to do in this game to actually obtain this 5th Reformation before the Protestant wars fire, the Holy Wars fire, or religious wars fire, is to basically disregard any aspect of the game whatsoever apart from the Empire. Obviously, because so much of your energy and your effort would usually be going towards keeping Italy in the Empire, or alternatively abandoning that altogether, a lot of Emperor playthroughs are pretty predictable in the sense that you designate your resources in Italy, your time, your energy, your manpower, your money, etc., and you really allow things to kind of fall apart a little bit inside the Empire, which you otherwise wouldn't do if you were just managing the Empire. Well, because this has become so much more easy, we're able to actually be more disciplined and focus on not allowing nations like Brandenburg, Saxony, whoever, to actually conquer their neighbors. And that's going to be an important aspect to this, is you want to be quite disciplined from the beginning of the game and actually dividing the empire as much as possible and keeping as many independent nations as possible. Now, in regards to me saying abandoning everything that isn't the empire, well, typically I feel like a lot of people, when they play Austria, they think about all of the potential that Austria has in terms of the fact that you can quite easily personal union Bohemia. Another example is the Burgundian inheritance, or another thing is the personal union over Hungary, which is also quite feasibly obtainable. Now, all of these things, in my mind, in order to execute the strategy, are nothing but distractions. Of course, you can personal union Hungary, but this is simply something that it's a waste of time. I don't know how to explain it otherwise. Rather than allying Hungary and hoping for the free personal union, or enforcing the personal union over him when you get the CB, rather than doing that, what you can actually do is attack him. And if we take, say, 1 province here and 1 province here, this is going to allow us to actually release Croatia and Nitria. I'm not sure I can pronounce that properly. That is huge in terms of helping out the empire, 2 more independent states. It's also going to give you access through Zagreb into Bosnia, which can be fully annexed and released into the empire, and then Serbia and perhaps Albania or Ragusa or so on and so forth. So these are all nations, and you can see in the earlier stage of this video, that is exactly what I did, is I was actually able to release many nations here that I otherwise would not have been able to do if I was trying to safeguard Hungary. Now, with that being said, usually Hungary depends on Austria for their diplomatic relations. They are obviously surrounded by more powerful nations, and they usually depend on their diplomacy with the emperor. What will often happen is France will ally Hungary if you do not, but my point is, if you actually defeat Hungary, then very often you're going to find the PLC or the Ottomans or both actually attack the Hungary. Therefore, Hungary is going to become crippled and become a tiny nation. And just like early in this video, at that stage, once you've taken Croatia, Nitria, and they've been actually attacked by other nations, usually you can fully annex them, add their land to the empire, and release them as a vassal. Now, in terms of breaking vassals, this is something you're going to want to manage. I have been spending a lot of my time in my playthrough over my diplomatic relations, because you cannot actually break a vassal when you have a truce with them. However, it's worth it. It's worth it. What we're doing in this playthrough is to absolutely sacrifice just about everything on getting that empire on lockdown as early as possible. Like I said earlier, I did it in about 110 years, and that basically makes the next entirety of the game enjoyable and a breeze, thanks to achieving that. Again, somebody might be proud of themselves having obtained Hungary in a personal union, but if it makes the difference between not being able to pass this, then that kind of gives you insight into how costly it really was to actually obtain that personal union. In my game, I'm going to be able to pass this and integrate Hungary for free. The entirety of Hungary, the entire region, and some for free. No cost, no deploy annexation cost. So there we go. So I hope you guys understand how this is meant to be intended to be played. What I try to do is I try to take land outside of the empire, add it to the empire, that's going to give you imperial authority, but then release it as vassals, which is permanently going to increase the imperial authority per month. What I was going to say about vassals is, if you're fighting a war against France, for example, you really want to beat France, and let's say France is allied to Brittany, then a good tactic to keep an eye on is, when you try to separate peace Brittany, you want to get them out of the war, you could actually lose the war and cancel your subjects. That is something that can be executed under the right circumstances. They don't always want that as a victory, but that is one way you can start releasing your subjects and reducing those diplomatic relations. Now, my first move, and what I recommend to be your first move in this playthrough, is going to be dealing with France. France is obviously one of, if not the most powerful European nation, and they are a big concern, and they gave me a struggle in my game. One thing you will find usually is, if you do not ally Hungary, then the French are actually going to ally them, as well as very often the French will ally the Pope. And this is going to make an offensive war against Hungary, which I just articulated why you want an offensive war against Hungary. And obviously we want to take the Pope's land. This is going to make both of those wars extremely difficult. So the way that I actually dealt with this, and the way that I recommend you to deal with this, is to ally Castile, England, and I would even go so far, if you are a new player and you really want to have a lot of success, I would go so far as to keep re-rolling your game until Burgundy is not rivaling you. Now, you shouldn't have to do this that many times. Burgundy has other rival options like Denmark, and it's probably around 60% of the time that they're your rival. It shouldn't take you too long to have a game where Burgundy is not your rival. Regardless, each of these nations are actually friendly with you, and they should all be rivaling France. What I recommend you do is you actually ally each individual nation that is rivaling France. It might be... Oh, well, we actually got really lucky here, but this is unrealistically lucky. Castile is not rivaling England. Now, this is very rare, and they almost always rival England. Never fair, though. They're both friendly, and as long as you improve your relations with them, you should be able to acquire them both as an ally. Now, if we let my diplomats return, we're going to find here on the 11th of December that these two nations will actually help us against France if we promise them land, as you can see. So what I like to do is I actually rival France, and this is going to give us a CB. Never mind all of these, I'm not going to play through this game, so I don't really care about what's going on. Rivaling France is going to give us the Humiliate Rival CB. And although we can actually not take any land, and although we cannot actually promise our allies, well, we can promise them the land, but we cannot actually give it to them, this is the first move that I recommend that you make. Now, obviously, I'm being a bit hasty here, but you want to observe what Hungary does, and you want to wait until Hungary has solidified its allies. If he allies France, and if the Pope allies France, by the way, you should be fabricating a claim on the Pope to attack him immediately. If that is the case, then what you're going to do is actually attack France, utilizing Castile, England, and hopefully Burgundy in an offensive war, crush him off the onset at the beginning of the game. And what you can actually do is release Dauphin to Provence, who is part of the Empire. And I recommend you do the same thing, by the way, when you attack the Pope, is to add that province to the Empire as well. So those are your starting moves. Again, the approach is to add land to the Empire and then increase the number of nations in the Empire at all costs. That's what you're going for. Something to keep an eye on is if you take Nitria, you could expand out to here. You could work on Krakow, that's a nation you could release, as well as this nation. Try to be as strategic and as smart as possible about the circumstance. You obviously want to add this province to the Empire, as well as manage the Empire to the best of your abilities, like adding all of this land when you can. The rest is up to you. I hope this helps you, this video, and I hope you're able to acquire that World Conquest achievement and have a good time doing that yourself and having as much of an awesome game as I did. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Peace out.